ready. Do we think that Deplete from Beyond is, while they've been ramping and certainly improving a lot, Zyro, do we think that they're getting close enough to a position to compete with Perplexed and be able to take, more than a game or two off of them?
It's really tough to say. Perplexed has looked incredibly good today. Their series against Method EU, especially that King's Rest, it looked like they were like on top of their game. Deplete from Beyond, they've kind of had some hiccups here and there. If they can play like they played in that Junkyard, I think we could see a really competitive matchup. But it's kind of going to come down to, how well they actually end up playing. I think their top end is pretty close to what we see from Perplexed, though.
All right, we'll see what they're going to be capable of as the game is getting started. Now, as Deplete from Beyond and Perplexed square off.
Alrighty, so we got a pretty spicy pull that comes out from both sides that we're probably going to see from both Perplexed and Deplete from Beyond. It involves typically pulling the matron that's also patrolling with the rest of this, and it can get very dangerous whenever those charges come out. You see Divine grouping up everything. Divine is also grabbing the ticks in with this pack, where Deplete from Beyond is playing a little bit safer variant without ticks. But they're actually, is that triple?
They have double, they have double patrols from both sides of the bridge here.
No, that's disgusting.
Yeah, this is wild. Clicks 1% HP. Look at that huge damage. He actually took a cleave there and somehow is alive thanks to the way of the crane. But look how much healing Igloo is doing. Meanwhile, Perplexed, all finished with this pull. They're all done. Rentari goes down for Deplete Beyond. Curry goes down as well. That is very bad. Those are some very large matrons. It is Matron's Day here in the Underrot. Yeah, they're claiming some victims here from Deplete from Beyond. Perplexed, meanwhile, started off on the first boss. Not had as much trouble here. Deplete from Beyond, a much more aggressive pull there. More trash count, but this is nowhere close to worth it, given the deaths and how long it has taken them to clean this all up.
I think part of the problem that they had is that one of the priests was stuck off to the side, and Carricio only has one grip, so he had to grab the other side's priest. And then you have one just bolting people. An explosive goes off. Rentari ends up dying, and from there it just kind of cascaded out of control. Rentari actually does a really good job here in that skip, and we've seen a lot of teams wipe to that mask skip because right there that Haro's cast goes off, and if somebody isn't fully topped, then that Haro's cast will end up killing somebody. But Rentari doing a good job shockwaving into fear on that whole entire pack before they melded.
Yeah, they are now onto Elderly Axa, but dramatically behind here. 70% of the boss's health. I hesitate to do any subtraction on the fly anymore on these things, but I believe that is a 70% health difference. Yeah, it looks about right. And that is a lot on a Tyrannical encounter here.
Was
nowhere near
failing you yesterday, Dranos?
Nowhere near worth that 4% trash count that they have got over to Perplexed here, given how badly that first pull went for them. However, it's not over yet. The rest of the dungeon could always go wrong for Perplexed, and we haven't seen the rest of Deplete from Beyond's Underrot either. They might have a faster strategy in the rest of the run. Ooh, we got some debuffs going out on this first boss for Deplete from Beyond. That's not...
This is it's either a 6 or a 7 lasher pull. I don't remember how many are actually in that patrol. I think it may be a 6 lasher pull. So they're just counting on the way of the crane healing to be able to pull them through those casts, because you can dispel it is also a disease, but basically Zamak is just going to be able to heal through that debuff, that stun debuff that those lashers put onto people. That's a good adaptation by Perplexed there to be able to pull all of that.
Yeah, Perplexed now doing a fairly tame pull over here, as they don't have a Death Knight cooldown, so they're doing a small amount of the room now that will set them up to do probably the rest of the room, potentially even into the boss afterwards. That's the kind of thing that, this size pull is not. You see the Death Knight actually in 4th place on the damage meters. Takes a lot of damage there, but does get the life cocoon, as he was fixated by that Feral Bloodswarmer.
Yeah, double enraged Bloodswarmers are very dangerous. So that, while that may have seemed like a modest pull for Perplexed, it was fairly dangerous. Deplete from Beyond here is doing something similar. Even with those 4 deaths that they have at the start of the dungeon, they're still within striking distance of Perplexed.
Yeah, they are a little bit behind on count, though, because they did do... Oh, no! That's bad. Igloo goes down. They do have a battle res available, but Dr. J also down immediately afterwards. That's going to require a res, and the time loss here is adding up for Deplete from Beyond. Meanwhile, Perplexed doing a massive pull here, not into boss, just a massive pull. The rest of the Kragmaw room all together. Look at Divine just spiking up there with that Strength of the Warden, Mareka's Fang combo. Now Wolf Disco is doing his Death Knight thing. Saving the combo a little bit for later in the pull, which is a smart adaptation to this Raging Affix. That avoids you having... You really want to avoid dealing the first 70% of the mob's health quickly and then having them slowly die when they're enraged.
While they're enraged, yeah.
Right, so a much smarter strategy there, just delaying your combo a little bit longer, set up some more wounds, and then have them explode so that they don't spend too many globals within that Raging window.
I mean, that's absolutely ideal. I mean, we saw so many problems in Junkyard because of that. Just the mobs are sitting at 20% health enraged, and you're... just going to perish. Of course, hunters do have the ability to be able to soothe off mobs with their Pet's Dispel ability that they do get from that Spirit Beast, but it's only one out of however many mobs, right?
Yeah, there's no AoE Soothe yet in the game. That would be extremely potent, though, on these pulls.
So Kragmaw, the Infested, hitting 67%. Out comes his first Tantrum. Where Deplete from Beyond has entered the Nyalotha realm, where Urgroth, the Breaker of Heroes, has recently fallen down. Rentari is now grouping up the rest of the room here inside of Kragmaw's area. Perplexed, on the other side, not to be outdone, has pulled all of these Reanimated Guardians and the Death Speaker.
Yep, they are going into Kragmaw here after that first Tantrum, now that their Death Knight cooldowns have recovered from that previous pull, and they will be AoEing all of this stuff down right on top of that obelisk, right at the edge of the room. They got a nice charge into the wall there. Not moving too far is Kragmaw. And this is looking pretty good for Perplexed, pretty efficient. We'll see what their next order of business is. I suspect that they will be using that obelisk to skip that solo worm, which is otherwise a little bit annoying in their path.
They're Nope Ropes. Or Hazard Spaghettis.
Hazard Spaghetti.
Yep. Deplete from Beyond, on the other side, has pulled this Fetid Maggot into Kragmaw the Infested. That's not that bad. Honestly, pulling this one Maggot, as long as you're getting stops on it, it should be pretty easy.
Yeah, it's weird, though. It's a little strange. Like, I'm not sure if this is part of the plan or if this is just accidental that it wasn't pulled earlier.
Maybe it didn't get grabbed by Rentari on accident. It's not.
It's definitely not the end of the world to have it in here, but it seems like it would be more efficient to have just done it as part of the AoE pull, because they're spending globals interrupting it and stuff during this boss fight, and it's not notably adding to their damage. It's just one extra target.
But it is hard. Sometimes it would be hard to control in such a large AoE pull if you add in any more maggots. So maybe they just didn't have enough CC to be able to allocate. Who's to really say, right? I'm sure that they have far more practice than you and I.
We'd have to ask them whether or not whether it was mistake or planned.
Yeah.
My money's on mistake, though. My money's on mistake.
Maybe. Perplexed here has down Kragmaw the Infested.
They're leaving the obelisk.
Dratnos' advice, they are completely skipping Urgroth, Breaker of Heroes. They are walking towards that Sporecaller Xancha area. Divine Field jumping into that Grotesque Horror. It gets paralysis immediately, and now they are running all of these Reanimated Guardians into the next pack. Oh, actually, no, they're just going straight into Xancha. They're going to pull those other mobs later, probably. Those Double Defilers.
Yeah, they're waiting until everything is
now.
nice and close. Yeah, so that it starts combat right as they pull the boss. They've also grabbed one of those Feral Bloodswarmers that flies off to the side. And yeah, huge trash pull now into Sporecaller Xancha for Perplexed. But it is just melting under the pressure from that DK. And actually the Warrior Burst as well. Divine does such a good job of just unleashing massive damage on pull with his Azurite Essence and his trinket there.
Okay, so one of the most underrated things is the tank's ability to be able to get threat this season. So in seasons past, we saw tanks have major problems genning threat against Unholy Death Knight, but with that Strength of the Warden Major plus Maractus Fang combination, tanks this season have had an insane ability to be able to hold threat off of DKs.
Deplete from Beyond here. What are they up to? Yeah, are they going to be pulling this into boss as well? No, they're going to be melding that first set of skeletons. So they're just skipping those 4 skeletons there entirely. I wonder where they're going to collect the rest of their count. I don't love this. I think that those skeletons are pretty efficient as well. I think that trying to find a way to pull them into Kragmaw is optimal if possible.
Oh, significantly more ideal, I would agree. I think maybe they just didn't think about it. They were also, I don't know if you noticed, but they were mid-tantrum whenever they ended up killing Kragmaw. So even then, if it costs them an additional tantrum that they have to play, it would not be ideal. It's just not
extra tantrums are bad news on Tyrannical because they add a lot more damage as well.
I mean, that may be where the maggot that you were talking about comes into play, right? So they were a little bit behind on their tantrum because they have to spend globals on killing those maggots.
It's certainly possible, yeah. Ooh, Perplexed goes pretty low after one of those explosions from Xancha. A couple diseases going out as well. But they are going to be okay. They're going to get through this boss fight.
Yeah. I mean, Zamak is just electing to DPS instead of topping people. I mean, it is a totally standard play. I don't think it's that... I don't think it's that concerning, even though they could just like sit 50% health. All of the damage on this fight is mostly avoidable outside of that festering harvest cast.
Now Perplexed with just 14% left in the dungeon. They do need to get it all before they can go down to the last boss, and then they will be fighting 4 awakened enemies with the last boss. So you kind of get bonus count by actually fighting obelisks along the way that you don't normally get.
Yeah.
In this dungeon, because you need to get to the 100% count before pulling that last boss.
Yeah, but effectively, what playing the 3 obelisks with the final boss is a 12 mob count pull. In addition to that, but like you have to be 100%, but you don't skip those obelisks because like the count that they give is not worth the time that you would spend to play them. Is rather what I'm saying. Basically, you skip obelisks if they were too difficult and you could not be able to complete the dungeon otherwise. Then you skip.
All right, so Perplexed getting up here. They probably just need to go kill those 2 faceless horrors in front of the boss, the faceless corruptors, right in front of the last boss, and they'll be done with their mob count. They're on pace here for a pretty good Underrot time. Their previous best was a 15:26 in this tournament, and that was with 3 deaths. So far, they haven't even put a single death on the board.
Was that the Sanguine one? Was that the Sanguine week?
No, that was this weekend.
Oh, you're talking about this weekend. I was like, I thought you were talking about just total.
No, their previous best. Ooh, we have a worm free casting.
No. Please stop the worm immediately. A Shine drops the trap on top of that worm that is free casting on the whole entire group. The worm is going to drop combat as soon as the guys drop down towards the Unbound Abomination room. So it doesn't matter that it's in combat with them, but you getting 2 casts on yourself is fairly scary.
Yeah, good job by Zamak as well, saving his revival. A lot of people would panic, hit revival there with all those magic debuffs on the entire group.
Oh, yeah.
But heads up forethought about knowing he's going to need that for the fear from Samrak, Beckoner of Chaos. Meanwhile, on the side of Deplete from Beyond, here is the count that they are getting instead of those skeletons after Kragmaw, and the first pull after Elderly Axa as well. It is the entire room here.
Okay, so
onto a worm. Worm getting some casts off, though, while enraged.
A Faceless Corruptor and a Defiler. That's a
beefy
pretty scary pull for melee, but whenever you're running Hunters, it's not that bad. Hunters do notably lose a little bit of damage whenever you pull the Defiler because of how the Spirit Drain Totem works, but because the Spirit Drain Totem can stun the Hunter pets, it's just something that you have to think of whenever you're doing a pull like that. But Deplete from Beyond is still pretty far behind Perplexed right now, as Perplexed has engaged Unbound Abomination with all 4 Obelisk mobs alive.
Yeah, this is a very, very difficult part of the dungeon. With Tyrannical active, fighting 4 obelisks with the last boss on a +19 key is extremely technical. If anything goes wrong here, they will be dead very quickly. Luckily, this boss is one that it's kind of well suited to doing this, as you're kind of naturally wanting to kite away from the boss anyways, which makes the effects of the Tank Buster and the Blob a little bit less pronounced.
Divine get corruption slowed inside of that bile from the Unbound Abomination. That could have been scary there for a moment, but Divine able to waddle on out of there. The last 2 more of the Awakened mobs are going to be falling over here shortly, and from that point forward, Perplexed should be fairly easy for Perplexed to be able to take down Unbound Abomination. The hard part of the fight is over for sure.
Yeah, they've dealt with all those 4 awakened enemies, and they're on track here for a massively improved time relative to their previous Underrot run. This is a world-class pace here that I believe would be competitive with Method EU if we end up seeing that matchup later. So
absolutely. I mean,
awesome play.
Perplexed puts up world-class pace times. I don't know why this should come as a surprise to any of us. They are a very sick team. I don't know. It definitely is unsurprising to me that they are putting up this near 14-minute run of Underrot.
Yeah, meanwhile, Deplete from Beyond making their way to the last boss with just 3 obelisks active. It is going to be too little too late, though. Set behind at the start of the dungeon. There's basically no recovering for them unless Perplexed mess something up, which Perplexed did not. Perplexed had a bolder strategy and executed it better. That is always a winning combo.
I feel like Deplete from Beyond is normally just like a less consistent version of Perplexed in my mind. Deplete from Beyond is a very good team, and whenever they're firing on all cylinders, everything looks good, but their consistency just comes into question sometimes, and that's why Perplexed is going to be taking this first map in the Underrot and put them up 1-0.
That's right, Perplexed. While we haven't been seeing them play a ton because we've been so fixated on a lot of these lower bracket matchups, they've done a great job of, keeping pace and establishing themselves as that high caliber team. We've talked a lot about the caliber of, Deplete from Beyond, the boys, Self-Reliance, everyone really around that area that's been fighting to qualify for the grand finals, but we don't talk about it enough how well Perplexed is and what kind of numbers they're really able to pull up here, Zyro. Mr. Zyro?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, you can disagree if you want, all right?
No, you're right. I was thinking, I was a little bit speechless there for a moment. I wasn't muted. Okay. But it's got to be so frustrating to be Perplexed here, right?
Yeah.
Because you are incredibly good, but it feels like you're chasing this like unattainable, not perfection, but like team in Method EU. No matter how much improvements Perplexed seems to make, Method EU is also making those same improvements on a week-to-week basis. So even though you're seeing improvement from Perplexed, they're just like perpetually this number 2 team that can pretty easily deal with every other team if they're playing well, but can just never really seem to match Method EU.
I agree with that, but I don't know if I would, dude, if I'm in Perplexed's shoes, I don't care about Method EU. I would literally just focus on my own personal game every single time I play, and I just wouldn't fixate on any dilemmas that we're having against other teams, especially whenever I'm not playing versus Method EU.
Sure,
it's kind of tough to be doing as well, because a lot of these guys are, streamers, a lot of them very involved in the community as well, and there's always going to be those comparisons being drawn to, the team that beats them at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting examples we have of that is something that JB from Method NA was saying last year, is whenever you're crafting a route for a dungeon, it's not good enough to just say, is this route good enough for us? The question that you have to be asking yourself is this route good enough to beat Method EU? And more often than not, it isn't.
And it continues to put more pressure, and pressure can be good, but it's also, like you were talking about, Zyro, it's kind of a source of frustration as you're looking at your tournament matchups and seeing who you have to be playing against, and it's, end of the day, the same opponent, the same, villain that you're trying to be able to triumph over. So at that point, Perplexed, I think, also gets, a bit of breath of fresh air with such a strong run that maybe starts boosting their confidence as they're trying to get themselves back to the grand finals here, Dranos.
Yeah, I think so, and especially going into our next map, which is going to be Operation Mechagon : Workshop.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
You were like,
Operation
you were dragging it out.
Mechagon Workshop. Perhaps.
Yeah, he was dragging it out, so I was like, wait a minute, which one is this?
Yeah, it's not quite the right Mechagon for memes, but this might be the right Mechagon for Perplexed, because their workshop has been phenomenal in time trials. We haven't seen it yet from them, but they were like a minute faster than everybody except for Method EU, and I don't know how you do that in workshop. I don't know where that time is to be made up, but that's going to be really awesome to see from them shortly.
Yeah, and that's, the constant chase. And Tettles, you're kind of talking about it, where Deplete from Beyond is this, just slightly below the Perplexed type of region. They have very high highs, but are they going to be able to consistently be able to do that? They're trying for it right now, right? They're trying to be able to improve their standing as we're looking at, global finals in the future, but it starts with the teams in your region who you're going to eventually have to face.
I mean, heck, they almost beat Perplexed last...
Whoa, watch your language.
I said heck, please.
I know.
Last weekend, they almost beat Perplexed in the lower finals. They have it in them, but like I was saying, they're just a less consistent version. It's like whenever they were playing versus Self-Reliance. They didn't lose because they were slower than Self-Reliance. They lost, they didn't lose Workshop because they were slower than Self-Reliance. They lost Workshop because they wiped. I'm down to accept just losing because you're a little bit slower and maybe your strategy isn't as refined. But once you start having major wipes, then we have to call into question your consistency or how you're going to be performing. And at the end of the day, these teams want to be pulling this huge amount, but then you have to just kind of question whether or not it's worth always going that big and going for broke. Clearly, Deplete from Beyond thinks the answer is yes. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and I think that's always one of the other things to point out is that it's a lot of, nitpicky behavior that we're doing is, comparing these guys to the best in the business, comparing them to, the best possible other teams that are out there, and seeing if they're able to match up on it. And, we've been having some particularly challenging affixes this weekend with bolstering and explosive pretty much every other dungeon, Zyro.
Yeah, I mean, I like the points that Tettles is making about like this sort of idealistic scenario where you look at your best time versus another team's best time, because realistically that never happens. I made an offhanded comment about this the other day, and we were actually pretty close to dead on. Less than 10% of the dungeons we've ever even had in the MDI have been perfect dungeons with 0 deaths on either side. So I feel like the Lending being able to wipe and come back is a much bigger skill for these teams.
That's right. We'll have to see what these guys are able to put together as Workshop gets underway. Perplexed up 1.
Yeah, Deplete from Beyond here we see doing the Rocket Barrage bait, whereas Perplexed are baiting with the hammer to kill all these mobs. Rocket Barrage once again proves to be faster for Deplete from Beyond, so great work from them there, getting an early advantage. We'll have to see if they're able to hold that, though, the rest of the way through. I expect to see a lot of other teams actually picking up that Rocket Barrage strategy, given how much they proved it is faster than the hammers.
I mean, I think it looks like it's about the same speed normally. Perplexed had a mishap with the hammer, though. I think it's easy to have like a small mistake with either portion of that solution, right? If you get accidentally knocked by the swirling axe, then your Rocket Barrage is messed up, whereas if the mob's flying peck out of the hammer, then your hammer's messed up. I think it's about the same, personally.
I think the Rocket Barrage is better.
I will allow you to believe that.
All right. Deplete from Beyond here with no mercy for you. Almost dead already on his very first Vent Jets cast. Fortified active means these bosses won't take too long, as they're now going to be working just on the Platinum Pummeler. Perplexed doing pretty much the same thing here, trying to get that bait on the hammer to kill off. Ooh, are they going to get it in time? They are just barely going to get that hit on No Mercy as the Vent Jets cast starts. That is the most dangerous part of this fight, is that Vent Jets cast. It's a combination of Kragmaw's Tantrum, but also it just kills you if you're right in front of it.
It's 1 tick longer than Kragmaw's Tantrum, so it's a little bit more damage. But it's also over a slightly longer duration. Sorry.
From Beyond, going down the chute. Tettles, how honored are you that they put the vocals in the game with that chute based on you? Trash, 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 trash. Tettles, you there? I think we lost your audio. No worries, I'll continue on.
Nope, I'm just not talking.
He's in protest.
You're talking a lot of trash over there, Dratnose.
That's the case. Perplexed making their way down the chute as well, whereas Deplete from Beyond making their way around now towards where Cujo is. So 30 seconds, I'd say, separating these two teams now in favor of Deplete from Beyond. That is good news for them, hoping to even up this series.
Yeah, this is where we saw Deplete from Beyond wipe last time. These Mega Drill casts in combination with the Process Waste Frontal that you see right there on the screen, it's really hard to get line of sight of the box while you are tanking both the Mega Drill and the Process Waste cast, because if the Process Waste faces towards your box while you're trying to line of sight it, then it will just wipe your whole entire team. We saw Rentari actually go down as the linchpin of that last time on the side of Deplete from Beyond. He also has to fully take this Vent Jet because of what I was talking about, but it looks like Deplete from Beyond is going to be able to do this pulse cleanly this time. That's a big time save that they're able to pull that off without a hitch.
Perplexed now doing the same thing here. All the trash into Cujo. Big damage coming out from every member of their team. They've got that line of sight spot next to the box.
Dude, they got
Divine
it perfectly.
Standing out. Yeah, this is beautiful. Oh, they have to be careful. Okay, yeah, they're doing a good job. Divine taking quite a bit of damage, though, and Grievous getting a ticking on him. Yeah, they're doing a good job, though, of just melting Cujo. Look at this. They pulled Cujo like 30 seconds later than Deplete from Beyond, and yet, health is almost equal now.
So if you look at how Zamak was also positioned, Zamak was positioned next to the Hunters, and he had a full line of sight on Divine while Divine was actually standing in. That's just a sick heads-up play on the side of Perplexed to be able to pull off their play like that. Because whenever you're playing with tanks like Rentari and Divine, who are both standing out using their shield wall to be able to fully tank all of that trash, they can't just sit there with shield wall without healing. So the healers need to be able to position on the corner of that box as well, not just the Hunters.
Yeah, both bosses now, just the boss fight left for each of them. Feign Death not quite working out there on the side of Perplexed on the first jump. Normally something we see teams do is using that Feign Death to stop the jumps. But yeah, Deplete from Beyond, gonna kill this boss 10 seconds faster than where Perplexed is. So the gap was a 30-second gap on their first boss split, but that has shrunk down to just now a 10-second difference between these two teams as Perplexed was able to speed up there in the second portion of the dungeon.
Yeah, they did the second portion of the dungeon apparently 2 minutes faster according to our splits down at the bottom of the screen. It looks like Swag...
20 seconds, right?
Yeah. They cut down the time 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So Swag did that jump where you're able to kind of parkour up onto the ledge to get to the conveyor belt just a little bit quicker. Deplete from Beyond, still maintaining the lead that they have, has engaged and almost killed off the first pack of trash that is in this council-style trash pull with these guard dogs that you have to deal with. Perplexed, hot on their heels, though. These dogs will be going down here momentarily for them.
Yeah, once again, Deplete from Beyond still has the slightest of advantages as a result of the first pull and the first boss going down a little bit faster for them. But Perplexed, not very far behind at all. We're going to get to see very little differences in their strategy for the rest of this dungeon, and yet somehow Perplexed was a minute faster in their time trial time. So I'm not entirely sure where that... I wonder if it was just, a cleaner run from them in time trials than Deplete had.
Did they play
or if they
obelisks?
actually... Yeah, maybe they 4 obelisk the boss. That's something that could save some time, but that'll require them to perfectly skip this section here. And that's something we've only seen work from Complexity Limit before in the NA region. That was when they had access to a Fire Mage as well, who really melts those awakened enemies.
We describe playing 4 obelisks with the King Mechagon as a trivial amount of time, but as a time save, but it is a time save.
Yep, it could explain some of that time difference
15 to 20
them.
seconds, maybe. Definitely not. Whenever you're fighting other teams that are of elite caliber, maybe you have to pull out all the stops in that regard, and maybe that's one of the stops that you decide is worth.
Yeah, in a time trial setting, it can be, you can put up the best possible time that your route gives, and then you may as well try something riskier for bonus time.
Sure.
That might not be something, though, that actually ever comes up in a tournament setting for these teams. All right, Deplete from Beyond making their way into that obelisk. They'll be fighting Voidweaver Mouth here, presumably going to be snapping it in a while. Where's Rentari going? Okay, yeah, he's just baiting those scarabs over to the side, and they will now be... Actually, looks like they're just going to fight it here for a while.
Okay, so Perplexed not playing 4 obelisks with the final boss. They have also engaged Voidweaver Mouth here, neck and neck with Deplete from Beyond. I think Perplexed has actually started to catch up even further.
Yeah, well, the gap, I think, was 10 seconds after Kujo died. I think it's still about that long, but it's definitely going to be close. We see a snap coming out now from Divine. No snap on the side of Deplete from Beyond. We can try and count from when Voidweaver Malthier dies to see how far these teams are separated. So there it was at 7:28 when it died for Perplexed. Let's see when it dies. Or sorry, 7:28 when it died for Deplete from Beyond.
Yeah.
Let's see when it dies for Perplexed. 7:39, so 11 seconds separating these two teams. It's going to be a pull into the boss now for both teams. Zamok staying in the Awakened Realm and will be pulled out once Divine tags the boss. There you go, you see the misdirects on him. And into boss combat they go, fighting all these trash, both teams. This is a part of the dungeon that we've seen wipe before a Shine, taking huge amounts of damage on the side of Perplexed. Most people from Deplete from Beyond looks like we're able to get inside a shield generator. Perplexed not able to get one of those shields inside the boss arena, so they're taking a lot more damage here. Luckily, Zamok is able to keep everybody up, but look at that huge damage going out onto everybody. Turtles being used. Now, all of those turtles used on the side of Perplexed, except for Wolf's, which just came up.
The gap is the exact same as whenever this boss got pulled, by the way. There was about a 10% differential. Now the gap is starting to widen a little bit as Deplete from Beyond get their second burst of cooldowns. Perplexed probably looking to get their second set of CDs here momentarily.
Look at the difference in healing that was required on this pull. Zamok needed to do twice the healing of Igloo on this pull. As a result, I think of that shield generator showing up, like they weren't able to get the shield generator down into the boss room.
But
like
Zamok is still doing
could.
more DPS, so the way of the Crane's efficiency allowing...
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, exactly. So the efficiency of way of the Crane allowing you to... Oh, Igloo goes down! Oh my goodness!
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. They should be able to kill this boss still. Yeah, they don't need a healer for the rest of this fight, but that is a 5-second penalty. That's going to slow down the boss fight. Not actually by all that much, though. The release point is going to be right here. But yeah, 5 seconds now separating these two teams. Or 5 seconds going to be penalized against Deplete from Beyond here. That is pretty much going to make this gap... that cuts the gap in half, down to 6 total seconds. I just counted out from the end of that boss fight. So yeah, 6 seconds now separating these two teams. Oh my goodness, what a close match we are watching here.
Yeah, now Perplexed has engaged the spider tanks as well. You can see both teams. So for Perplexed, the orange spider tank is the one that they will be DPSing down first. For Deplete from Beyond, the skull marker is the spider tank that they will be DPSing down first. Once those spider tanks do die, then you begin to start the RP for that robot machine that will carry you up to that little landing area near where King Mechagon is, and that's why you end up killing that tank first to begin to start that RP moments sooner. So Perplexed and Deplete from Beyond are neck and neck to the point where that 5-second death, like Dretno said, may be the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think Deplete from Beyond was about 10 or 11 seconds ahead, and now they're about 5 seconds ahead. So it's still Deplete from Beyond in the driver's seat here, but my goodness, is it close here. They're actually Perplexed landing almost exactly 5 seconds later than Deplete from Beyond did, so that is the death count there, and they're maybe on the exact same pace right now.
Yep, so you do see a mirror pull coming out of both sides. They're not pulling those Mark III robots. Instead, they are just pulling the 3-pack that's at the very bottom of this landing area. And then once this 3-pack dies, they will run through those Mark III robots and that pack at the top of the landing, meld everything off, and then begin combat with King Mechagon.
Yeah, both teams going to be doing that same strategy here. 92% count for both of them. They're both sky-stepping through everything right now. And yeah, here's going to be... Wow, look at that fear. Pulls off to the side. Rentari pretty low on the side of Deplete from Beyond. Divine also taking pretty heavy damage. Both are going to be okay, though. Fish Feasts go down, and they'll both be pulling this last boss here within seconds of each other. A near-perfect run from both teams so far. Pulled at the same time, so the 5-second death penalty is now in favor of Perplexed. Perplexed has the advantage here if they can kill this boss at the same speed as Deplete from Beyond. But more than 5 seconds can easily change as a result of how well they execute this boss fight.
Consistency of cleave and being able to make sure that you are being super efficient with your hunter's damage here is going to make or break Deplete from Beyond, I think. That 5-second death penalty is just hilariously close for how tight this match is. You see the hunters on both sides running that Core Hound pet, being able to taunt Urgroth, Baker of Heroes, Shadow Smash cast, allowing the tanks on both sides to be able to take significantly less damage. You're able to keep up Urgroth for a prolonged period of time because of the hunter's ability to taunt it. Perplexed is starting to open up a slight lead over Deplete from Beyond here, damage-wise on the boss.
Yeah, they're doing a good job here of keeping that cleave up, and they've killed all their awakened enemies as well. They're just doing more damage. I'm not sure what explains it. I think it might be Divine just blasting off here compared to Rentari.
Well, Dr. J is doing the same damage. Dr. J is doing more damage than Swag comparatively, right? Or Clicks, and both of those were in third place.
Igloo down again for Deplete from Beyond. They do have another battle res, or they have 2 battle reses actually, so they're going to be able to resurrect him. But this is disastrous for Deplete from Beyond, as they did not have those 5 extra seconds plus the battle res time to spare here. Aerial unit going down for Perplexed, and Perplexed is now ahead, both in time and with a 10-second death penalty working in their favor.
Yeah, Perplexed time and time trials for this dungeon was 1350, I believe.
1329 was their time trial.
So they're going to be slightly off their time trial time.
I think 4 obelisk in the time trials is probably what they did. Unless it was just that first pull going a little bit. Maybe they had the first pull perfect in time trials, and they lost 30 seconds to it this time.
That first pull somehow almost sealed the deal, because that was, what was it, like 10 or 15 seconds lost? But in a dungeon that is so refined as Workshop.
It was 30 seconds.
Was it 30 seconds?
First pull, yeah.
Jeez. That's, yeah. They almost got mega punished for that. Now Perplexed has gotten the Magneto arm out from the Omega Buster, with Omega Buster dipping below 20% HP. It looks like Perplex here is going to be able to take down the Omega Buster. At that point, they only have to DPS down 1,000,000 health from King Mechagon, and they should be able to take this against Deplete from Beyond 2-0.
Not respecting the 1v1 here. They're going to have all 5 members of their team fighting King Mechagon. That is unethical, but still taking a win for Perplexed.
Man, bad manners, unbelievable. Perplexed taking that 2-0 victory, and, you know, Deplete from Beyond had a couple deaths here and there, a couple Igloo deaths as well, but they did a good job making sure they're, you know, keeping pace. It just feels like each time they're kind of on the cusp of it, and Perplexed has done a great job of improving their team constantly, Zyro.
Yeah, sorry, I was laughing there a little bit because I saw
Great job of improving their team constantly, Zyro.
Yeah, sorry, I was laughing there a little bit because I saw Rentari just hop off the edge of the platform when I'm assuming they got the message that the other